So what is SMPS, or also known as switching mode power supply? It is an electronic devices that converts power using switching devices that are turned on and turned off at high frequency. It have high efficiency and widely used in variety of electronic equipment, including computers and other sensitive equipment such as requiring stable and efficient power supply. Explain switch mode power supply are classified according to the type of input and output voltages, such as AC to DC, DC to DC, DC to AC, and AC to AC. Input require rectifier and filter inverter consisting of switching devices such as MOSFET, transformer, output rectifier and filter, feedback, and control circuit. It is a rectifier or battery is fed to the inverter with it is turn on and turn off the high frequency between 20 kilohertz to 200 kilohertz.
The advantage and disadvantage of SMPS. First is the efficiency. SMPS has higher efficiency, which is about 68% to 90%. So mataas yung percentage niya na efficiency nga yung merong efficiency or effectiveness yung paggamit ng SMPS. Next, regulated and reliable outputs regardless of variation in input supply voltage. So ma-regulate siya and reliable yung mga nilalabas ng output kung ano mang variation o regardless kung ano man yung hihingin ng or i-input mo dun sa supply voltage. Next, SMPS is small size and lighter. So syempre mas compact or mas okay. And flexible technology. So, yun, easily adapt din siya sa new environment or sa other changes. Madali siya makakapag-adapt. And next naman is high power density, which is mas malaki or nakakaano siya ng mas maanong energy. Nakapagbigay siya ng mas mataas na energy. Next, the disadvantage naman of the SMPS. It generates electromagnetic interference or some unwanted noise or interference na nagkakos galing dun sa circuit or sa outside sources. Next, complex circuit design. So, syempre parang magko-consult ka din sa mga expert ganun para makapag-put pa netong circuit design na to. Next, expensive compared to linear supplies. So, yung paggawa ng SMPS, syempre mas mahal siya compare mo dun sa mga linear supplies. Ayun nga, mas mahal siya compared sa LPS or sa linear power supply since meron nga yung lower efficiency. And dito din kasi mas higher yung efficiency na binibigay or higher yung frequency na binibigay. So, expect na mas mahal yung paggamit or paggawa nito.
The components of SMPS. First is the capacitor. Capacitor are essential components of a switch mode power supply systems. Both the input and the output stage of the SMPS system have capacitors. At the input, a rectifier and the capacitor are used to convert AC voltage to DC voltage. The next is PTC thermistors. PTC thermistors are the resistor with a positive temperature coefficient, which means that the resistance increases with increasing temperature. PTC thermistors are divided into the two groups based on the material used, their structure, and the manufacturing process. The next is the varistors. A varistor is an electronic component with an electrical resistance that varies with the applied voltage, also known as a voltage-dependent resistor. It has a non-linear and non-ohmic current voltage characteristic that is similar to that of a diode. The next is EMC and transient protection. EMC is any method used to protect a sensitive signal from external electromagnetic signal or preventing a stronger signal from leaking out and interfering with surrounding electronics. Transient protection device redirect the energy and transient by utilizing the difference between the transient and the intended signal waveform. Then the last one is high performance and compact inductors. Compact inductor having the required predetermined inductance and the current rating order designed to avoid substantial heat generation by avoiding saturation, by possessing a low DC resistance and the copper loss, and minimizing the required volume or the profile in order to conserve circuit board.
Types of SMPS. DC to DC converter. This is the main power from AC mains to amended and shifted as a high voltage DC. This is DC voltage is at that point exchanged and nourished to the step-down transformer at the essential side. The auxiliary side of the step-down transformer is correct and shifted yield is collected, which is eventually sent as they to control the power supply. So DC to DC converters are temporarily stored to electrical energy of the purpose of converting DC from one voltage level to another. While forward converter, type naman siya ng DC to DC converter that like the flyback and half-bridge converter na nasusupply na output voltage, either mataas man o mababa yung input voltage na ma-provide ng mga electrical isolation through transformer.
Flyback converter. In a flyback converter, amid the on period of the switch, attractive field of the inductor store vitality. When the switch is within the open state, the vitality is forged into the yield voltage circuit. The duty cycle within a playback converter is decided by the yield voltage. The next is the self-oscillating playback converter. It is based on the playback guidelines. Amid conduction, a current through the transformer essentially begins to slope up directly with the inclined input voltage over LP due to the voltage initiated within the input winding and the auxiliary within the pass recover rectifier begins to function in switch one-sided and hold the conducting transistor on.
Like other types of power supply, a SMPS power supply transfers power from a source, usually an AC outlet, to a DC device. What sets the SMPS apart is its ability to regulate the output voltage. It can increase or decrease the output voltage to maintain a constant output regardless of changes in load. This dual ability gives it an advantage over linear regulators, which can only regulate the output down. That is, they can only decrease the voltage and not increase it. Moving on with the design and construction of SMPS. First of all, it will go through the diode and the capacitor for input rectification and filtering. From there, it will go in the MOSFET or BJT for high frequency switch. And then, it will go through the power transformer for the output rectification and filtering of the diode and the capacitor. And from there will be a PWM oscillator which serves as a control circuitry. It is located between the MOSFET and the output rectification and filter. So here is the PCB layout of the SMPS circuit. As we can see, there are blue parts and red parts here, which represents the top side part and the bottom side part of the circuit board. On the top side part of the PCB layout, we can see shapes and symbols which corresponds with the electrical components used. So we can see here the bottom side part of the PCB layout. There are letters and numbers, yellow part, green part, and darker green parts, as well as symbols and shapes. So the yellow part represents the components and where it is placed. The green part shows the connection between the yellow parts, and the darker green part is the PCB itself.
Good day everyone, I will be discussing the application of SMPS. So most switch mode power supply or SMPS applications involves power connectors, desktop power or server control. Because of the segregation topology, the SMPS plan is divided into two main areas, which are the essential and auxiliary. We will be focusing on the essential area that includes EMI shifting, input correction, and control calculate redress, or PFC gadgets. No matter what kind of topology is included, PFC is the key not as it were to expanding effectiveness, but moreover to progressing warm execution, particularly in 80+ SMPS.